All right, good afternoon, everyone. We would like to welcome you to our Fall 2020 Higher and Post-Secondary Education Applied Project poster session. Thank you all for being here. First, we'd like to, of course, welcome our presenters and our graduate students who will be sharing with you all shortly about some of the work that they've done over the last 15 weeks, although in many cases for many of our students, this represents a longer engagement with the topic, whether it's through their own professional careers or through practicum experiences. But what this culminating project will give you an opportunity to do is to learn a little bit more about the things that they've been able to research and gather data on and share findings related to critical and timely issues within higher and post-secondary education context. I should have started by saying my name is Kia McGuire. I'm an associate professor in the higher and post-secondary education program. My gender pronouns are he, him, and his. And I would also like to acknowledge the ancestral homelands of the Akmi, Atham, and Peepash peoples' lands, which we all are working from and learning on. And so I would like to start by simply sharing a little bit about the program and more importantly, where this project fits within that and within students' learning experiences. And then I'll turn it over to my colleague, Dr. McIntyre, who will share a little bit more about the floor of the events for today. Again, our higher and post-secondary education program is an opportunity and a learning experience that's really geared to prepare professionals to work in a variety of contexts on college and university campuses. One of the things that has become a core identity of our program has been the process by which we help and work alongside students as they learn ways to gather data, analyze data, all in the service of improving higher education practice and policy wherever they may be located. And so this applied inquiry or applied project, that poster session that you see here today is a culmination of a 15-week exercise or experience. During the first 7.5 weeks, our students have an opportunity to design a project. Of course, these projects are oftentimes very ambitious, and over our 15 weeks, we are able to pare it down into something that is not only manageable, but that will be impactful with the data that they're able to gather. And then in this session B of the semester, students are able to carry out their research project. And we'll get a little bit towards this at the end of the session today when we give some thank yous, but you should know this represents not only the work of our students and the faculty who are in the classroom, but also a number of mentors who sign up to work with students along and help give feedback on their projects as they're being designed and carried out. So we look forward to you all engaging with our students today, asking them questions, learning about their research, and hopefully having a very invigorating conversation. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Dr. McIntyre, who will say a little bit more about how the rest of the afternoon will be spent.
Thank you. Hi there. My name is Lisa McIntyre. I am an executive director in the University Provost Office at ASU and teach in the Master in Higher Ed program. The applied project is one of my favorite classes because, as Dr. McGuire said, this is about the topics that the students are most interested in. And so I always learn a lot about topics that I maybe don't get exposure to on a regular basis. So I hope all our guests have that same experience. Our students will be presenting in small breakout rooms of 3 to 4 folks. Dr. McGuire is going to put a link in the chat where you can find the Zoom breakout room link for the individual that you're here to support or the breakout room that you're most interested in. They are grouped by topics. We ask that you mute your microphones. You're all doing a great job of that if you're not the one presenting. We will present in order of the link that Dr. McGuire just shared. There will be a facilitator in the room to just kind of make sure all the technical pieces go right. They will be recorded sessions. We also ask that you hold all your questions until all of the presentations in your breakout room are complete, and then we'll open up that session for questions. We do encourage you to ask questions. These folks are experts on this topic and have spent a lot of time and energy becoming experts. And so this is a great opportunity for them to answer any questions that you might have. Once all the presentations in your breakout room are complete, we ask you to come back to this main session room for us to wrap up the program. So with that, Dr. McGuire, anything I missed or you want to add before we break out?
Nope, that's it. And please reach out to us for any questions that you might have. Dr. McIntyre and I will be moving from room to room. I see that I just got a message in the chat asking, can individuals move from room to room? Yes, as long as you're not a presenter. So all of our guests beyond the students are able to, again, move as you would like to bounce around to hear different topics of conversation and discussion. And so again, at this time, we'll give folks about 5 to 7 minutes to make your way over to your rooms. For our students who are on the call, again, look at the sheet as well so that you can go to the room that you will be in. And yeah, I think that's it for now. So thank you and welcome all again.
All right, so today I am going to be presenting on virtual events and their influence on the student college experience. My name is Vanessa Diggs, and I am a graduate student in the Master's in Higher Post-Secondary Education program here at ASU. So let's go ahead and get started. So research problem. Why was this something I decided to focus on? So since the impact of the coronavirus, COVID-19, the outbreak, the world has drastically shifted away from in-person gatherings. So this is forcing organizations such as colleges and universities to implement new and operate social distancing practices. So at the beginning, those practices were a little more tight niche in terms of when the COVID outbreak first happened. Now there are some leniency behind it in which President Crow is continuously sending out email communication to students in which how social gatherings and things like that are changing around the university. But across the United States, academic institutions are faced with tough decisions that they're working to try to keep students, faculty, and staff all safe in the wake of the COVID-19 coronavirus. And then of course, with the campus life looking different this fall, W.P. Carey, which is a college which is the W.P. Carey School of Business College here at ASU, they are committed to their mission in making sure that they're working with W.P. Carey undergraduates to feel connected to the W.P. Carey community. And the W.P. Carey has a department known as their Student Engagement Department, whose mission is to ensure students are feeling connected in terms of networking with other W.P. Carey students, also ensuring that they are improving their leadership skills. W.P. Carey is very adamant about students becoming leaders, and they have a variety of programs in which they set students up for success to take on these leadership roles, as well as just making sure that they're connected with their faculty and staff. So they're making those connections in terms of letters of recs, reaching out to faculty for research projects and things of that nature. So the purpose and the research question. So the purpose of this research is to understand how the W.P. Carey School of Business, WPC is the abbreviation for the school, Student Engagement Department is striving to maximize virtual engagement across W.P. Carey undergraduates at Arizona State University, as well as I want to measure students' perceptions of engagement in these W.P. Carey virtual events. So my research question for you guys today is, how do W.P. Carey virtual events influence the college experience of W.P. Carey undergraduates? And again, as mentioned before, I am a staff member for the W.P. Carey school. I am an academic advisor and I advised first year students. So that was another reason that I chose to partake in this research, is just my interest in wanting to see, since this whole transition from the pandemic, how are students being receptive of it? What is their engagement level like? So these are just all things out of my curiosity. So in terms of methodology, so what I did for my research is I did a descriptive quantitative study. I sent out there was an electronic survey that was designed in Qualtrics, in which I had the link distributed by the W.P. Carey Student Engagement Department, in which they have an email newsletter that they were able to send to all WP Carey undergraduate students. Within the survey, I had a variety of different questions, demographic questions, just asking, more questions related to their demographics, gender identity, questions in terms of residency status, also asking, age, so things like that. There are a few yes/no questions. So there were questions asking if students, attended specific virtual events or if they utilized specific services catered to those virtual events. So asking questions whether, students thought that, having their camera on was helpful. And then I also have some questions that fit within the Likert scale. And so these questions where students were to gauge their feelings based on the scale. So if they answered between 1, that means that they strongly agreed with the statement. And if they answered up to 5, that means that they disagreed. So there was 5 different scales. There was strongly agree, there was somewhat agree, there was neutral, and then there was someone to disagree for 4, and then strongly disagree for 5. The sampling I used was a random sample of a total in which I had 71 WP Carey undergraduates who responded. And this consisted of business students across the 3 ASU campuses that house predominantly the business majors. So that's West, Tempe, and Polytechnic. In terms of, trying to navigate this sharing screen tool as I'm presenting because it's in the way sometimes. So if you look at the graph down below, you can see kind of in terms of the demographics of how it's split up in terms of females, males, one student that preferred not to answer, as well as based on if they're in-state students, out-of-state students, and international students. I will say that I did get majority of my respondents were female, as you can see over here, and then also majority of them were in-state students. So that is how that is. And some more demographics. So in terms of out-of-state students that are living off campus, so in the orange, we can see that these are the students that are living out of state, and the blue represents the students that are out of state but are living in res halls. So this is information that is important to kind of gather as we move forward in the trying to understand the consensus of who are the students that are answering these questions. Are they on campus? Are they out of state? Are they living off campus? And then in terms of participants, so I had a high response rate from students that were on the Tempe campus versus the West Poly. And then also I had a respondent from the ASU online campus. So Tempe was pretty strong in getting their responses. So today, some key findings that I was able to find where the students' perceptions were neutral in feeling engaged across all three WP Carey virtual events. Students felt neutral also in terms of participating in a follow-up activity related to WP Carey after attending one of the WP Carey virtual events. And then another key finding is students somewhat agree the modalities across the 3 WP Carey virtual events were engaging. So.
Hey, Vanessa, did you mean to advance your slides? We're still looking at methodology if you were trying to show your findings.
Oh, no, I'm, let's see if I hit resume. So, are you guys
You worked hard on slides. Just want to make sure we could see what you were talking about.
Okay, so it's on methodology?
We saw that slide, yeah, but we were talking about your findings. I figured you probably had.
Oh, yeah, they were supposed to. Okay, so I'll kind of backtrack.
Yeah, just I think you can show us our slides so we can still see what you're working on.
Okay, yeah, so here, this is again just the graphs for the demographic questions that I was asking. So this is where I was wanting to show the type of demographics that I'm working with in terms of the responses that I received from students. All participants' responses are anonymous, but this is just kind of a rough estimate for this. And then here are the key findings I was mentioning earlier. So the perceptions feeling neutral as far as engagement across the 3 WP Carey virtual events. Students also felt neutral in participating in a follow-up activity related to WP Carey after attending one of the virtual events. And then students somewhat agree that the modalities across the 3 WP Carey virtual events are engaging. And so right here, so this pie chart shows the number of students the percentage of students who attended one of the first events is Camp Carey. And so in terms of percentage, I had 66 students, which is the orange, who attended Camp Carey. And then in terms, or excuse me, did not attend Camp Carey was 34%. And then in terms of students who did attend, it was 66%. So this is just some of the findings for gauging the level of attendance. In terms of I-Week, so in terms of I-Week, I had 61% of students who attended I-Week, and that's in blue. And then in terms of students that did not attend I-Week, I had 39% of students. And Fall Welcome, I had 67% of students who attended Fall Welcome, and then 34 students who did not attend Fall Welcome. And so right here is the averages in terms of students' perceptions of feeling engaged across the 3 WP Carey virtual events. So this is showing the averages of students that attended. So students' perceptions of, so on average, students reported 3 as their perception of being engaged across all 3 WP Carey virtual events, would suggest students' perceptions were neutral in feeling engaged across all 3 of the WP Carey virtual events. So right here, I have it listed out of the 3 WP Carey virtual events, but I did what is considered a composite variable, which is taking the total of all 3 of the virtual events, and both of the total percentages for each of these were closer to 3, which is, if you look at the bottom for the scale, that is closer to neutral. So students felt neutral in terms of feeling engaged. The median perception of feeling engaged across the 3 WP Carey virtual events for all 3 of them was roughly 2.33, which suggests students, WP Carey students somewhat, or were also neutral, or excuse me, somewhat agree, feeling engaged across the 3 different WP Carey virtual events. And then the standard deviation, which is this little line right here, is showing how the students' responses were variant in terms from the average. So this suggests that there were students who were feeling engaged and who were not feeling engaged. So that's what the standard deviation kind of measures, is how far students are answering from the average. And then in total of students' perception, so students' total perception. So engagement outcomes. So students on average reported 2.33 across all 3 WP Carey virtual events as their engagement outcomes. This suggests that students felt neutral also in participating in a follow-up activity related to WP Carey. And these follow-up activities can include the students' likelihood of wanting to pursue leadership opportunities within the college, or wanting to network with another student or faculty or staff members. So those are some examples of the follow-up activities. And then in terms of the event modalities, on average, students reported 2.43 across all WP Carey virtual events and their perception on how engaging those modalities were. And so this consists of having your Zoom camera on, asking, whether students felt more engaged when they were listening to music or utilizing the chat service. And so the mean for engagement was roughly 2.33, which is closer to somewhat agree, meaning students felt somewhat agree that the modalities of the virtual events were engaging. And same thing in terms of standard deviation. The responses were variant and across that. There were a lot of students who did agree that a lot of the outcomes were engaging or the modalities of the event were engaging, but there was also a good amount of students who didn't. So the responses were kind of scattered from the average. Okay, and then in terms of implications, so some main points, students are neutral in terms of feeling engaged to the WP Carey virtual events. Students are likely to participate in a follow-up activity as it relates to WP Carey. Students somewhat agree that the modalities of the virtual events are engaging. I will say some limitations that I experienced with my research study was there is a short turnaround in terms of a timeline of when we are to pretty much create the survey, send it out, analyze our responses, and analyze the data. So that was a short turnaround compared to most in-depth research studies. I had only a 4.26 response rate. In total, the survey went out to 3,149 WP Carey undergraduates. And so the response rate was pretty low in terms of 4.26%. I also had to, when I went and cleaned up the data, I noticed that there were some responses that were not fully completed. And so I had to go and omit that data. Research on the effects of COVID-19 pandemic on higher education is still fairly new. And then again, in terms of omitting data, I also had a few questions that were not measuring what I intended to measure. So those questions did have to be removed from the data. And then for this research, include perceptions of engagement across other ASU colleges. So maybe comparing how other ASU colleges also are measuring their level of engagement with their students. And I want to thank all of my faculty, my colleagues, friends, family that are here today. Thank you everyone who have pushed me to this point. So that is all.
Thank you so much. So thank you for that, Jordan. So I have to say, this is my first time participating in a virtual poster session, and that felt like a whirlwind, but in a good way. So thank you all for your presentations. Both Dr. McIntyre and I had an opportunity to hop around from room to room. I'm actually going to stop talking and turn over to Dr. McIntyre, and I'll say a little bit more to close us out at the end.
All right. I just wanted to congratulate all of you. You should be very proud of what you did. I know this semester was like none other. Just like Dr. McGuire, that was my first virtual poster session. And I just want to commend you all on your resilience and determination in making it work. We had all kinds of fun challenges to work through, and we all did it and had great communication. And I think you all, just the potential is limitless for all of you. So I wish you all the best of luck. I hope to hear updates from you all where your careers take you, and always here as a resource for you all. So I see all the applause and celebrations going up. It might be a bit much to unmute and do a round of applause, but want to thank all the guests, family members who were able to join us today. That is one of the great things about our virtual opportunity, is that I think we might have been able to expand our audience a bit more. We will be sharing recordings with the students. So if you weren't able to have a guest join us today, please share it with them. There's no way any of us would have made it through this program without all the support of our family and friends. And I also want to thank our colleagues. So every student in this part of the project has access to a professional mentor who's met with them multiple times throughout the semester and giving them feedback and encouragement. And so thank you all for doing that for our students. It really was great to see the feedback and insights, and having that other perspective to bounce ideas around was really helpful and benefited the work. So all right, well, I'll stop gushing. Dr. McGuire, what did you have?
Yeah, so just one more thank you before we move on, which is to Jody and her team who have handled all the logistical responsibilities for today, is setting up the virtual rooms, making sure that all the Zoom links work, and making sure that we have facilitators in each room. So thank you to Jody, Ashley, Pinnock, Liam, Caitlin, for your support and making sure that this program went off without any hiccups. So thank you all very much for making this easy for Dr. McIntyre and myself. I also would just like to echo Dr. McIntyre and thank our mentors. Usually we have like mentors and program instructors like raise their hand. I think there's a reaction to do that. So if you know how to raise your hand or put a thumbs up, maybe. If you want to put a thumbs up, how about that? So that we can acknowledge all of our mentors and program faculty who teach and work alongside our students throughout the program. Your support is sincerely and deeply appreciated. As you all know, I think one of the biggest strengths of our program is that we have meaningful and long-lasting relationships with individuals who are educators and scholars working both at ASU, but also across the Valley, and sometimes as well as in other states. And so we appreciate the support that you provide and the mentorship and the learning that you, or the way that you help to expand the learning of our students in our program. So thank you very much for that. And most importantly, I want to say congratulations and thank you to our students. I'm sure it cannot go overstated, I think, how unique this semester has been. And you all continue to approach the project and your capstone experience with enthusiasm, with a level of dedication, a level of flexibility and creativity that I think I was just excited to see, and gave me also energy as I entered and worked with you all over the last 7.5 weeks. And so I know very few things feel like it's normal as far as celebrating things in this particular context, but we do hope that you will find time to honor this moment in some way, to reflect back on all of the hard work that you've accomplished over your time in the program, and that you are able to enjoy at least a moment of reprieve with family and friends and colleagues, because what you have accomplished not only today and throughout the semester, but over the program is definitely worth celebrating. And it has been our pleasure to be on this journey alongside of you. So there's just two more things before we wrap up. So first one is kind of an announcement of sorts, which is at the very end, we'll ask all mentors, program faculty, and students to stay on the call so that we can take a photo. We may have to take multiple photos. I actually don't know how this works, taking photos in Zoom, but Jody will be here to assist us with that. And also every semester during the capstone experience, we have an opportunity to recognize a student, one of your colleagues and peers, who is nominated by program faculty as a recognition for their achievement and contributions, both inside and outside of the classroom, to the higher and post-secondary education program. And so this year we'll have an opportunity to do the same. And what I'm going to do is just share very briefly what one nominator said about this particular student before I announce who the student is. And again, we, and Lindsay, Dr. Dipple, who was on the call, normally does this part and does it much more eloquently than I do as I fumble through this process. But it's really an opportunity for us to recognize a peer who has made significant contributions, who has also impressed upon faculty with their dedication, not simply in this course, but throughout the program, and is therefore worthy of the nomination. We usually will hand you a piece of paper or a certificate of an award framed, we will have to connect after this in order to pass that along to you. But one nominator said about this student, that this student is extremely engaged. They also demonstrate a high level of intellectual curiosity. And they also not only work well with students, but embrace collaboration. And that this student in particular deserves recognition for their outstanding contributions that they made to the learning environment within and across classrooms. And so without further ado, that student is Dakota Weber. So let's give Dakota a round of applause. And also, Dakota, congratulations. I know you didn't know this was happening. You and I can connect after to make sure that you get your certificate and award. But again, congratulations, and for an award that's well deserved. Okay. Yes, you're welcome. You're welcome. All right, so we're going to stop there. Again, thank you for everyone who came and visited with us. We'll ask for the students and program faculty and mentors to stay on so that we can get one picture, and we'll share that out with everyone as well.